So, not taking much time, I would like to introduce the moderator for this first speaker. The moderator is Atulya Sinha, a railwayman by profession, but a rail fan by choice, is how Atulya Sinha would like to describe himself. Retired from active service recently as the Principal Chief Administrative Officer of the Rail Wheel Plant of the Indian Railways at Bela in the state of Bihar, he is a mechanical and production engineer with a postgraduate diploma in management. He has worked in important capacities in various aspects of railway working. Atulya Sinha has a keen interest in railway history and heritage and is a very active member of the Rail Enthusiast Society, heading its North Indian chapter. Over to you, Atulya.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
It's a great privilege for me to introduce my young friend, Pankaj Prasad. He describes himself as a cancer researcher by profession, a mixed medium artist by hobby, and a rail fan by heart. Pankaj has earned his PhD from Delhi University, after conducting research both at Delhi University and the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, two of the most prestigious institutions of Delhi. He has also conducted further research in his subject in USA and Singapore. He has traveled extensively by rail in different parts of the world, including India, Australia, Indonesia, and the USA. His passion for rail travel, Pankaj's passion for rail travel is matched only by his appetite for railway books, especially travelogues. He has a wonderful collection of railway-related books, and he keeps adding to them. And not only that, he is about to publish his own book, and we're looking forward to reading it. It's expected to be released by the end of this year. Today's topic, he'll be talking about Alaska Railroad, which was built over a century ago. It is a remote and beautiful landscape where very few of us would have gone. And I'm sure we are all looking forward to knowing about it from Pankaj. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Pankaj Prasad. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Am I audible now?
Yes,
Yes, please go ahead.
Oh, sorry for that. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pankaj Prasad, and I'm a scientist currently working at University of Texas, San Antonio in the USA. I would like to thank Mr. Singh for giving me this opportunity to speak today in this international conference. And I would like to thank Mr. Sinha for the kind introduction. The passion for the books, especially non-fiction books for the railroad, has come from various sources for many years of reading. And especially after joining this society, the collection has increased many folds. I have got to know about certain books which I had never seen before, and I keep buying more and more books. Maximum of my expenditure has gone into the purchasing of books. And today I'm going to talk about one of the railway which is very close to me, and is, for me at least, is one of the most scenic railroad in the world. I have traveled to different parts of the world, but somehow this railway I consider personally is one of the most scenic railway, and it plays a significant role in the development of Alaska state and also as a national railroad, which I'll try to prove in my upcoming slides. Before going into the details of the history and how the Alaska Railroad works, I would like to briefly talk about Alaska Railroad. It's one of the North America's only railroad which carries both passenger and freight. It's also one of the few railroad in the world which offers whistle stop service. That means a passenger can wave similar to a taxi, and the trains stop at certain location during the journey. It carries more than 400,000 passengers annually in 45 passenger cars. There are a variety of cars offered by Alaska Railroad. It owns more than 30,000 acres of land. Many of the properties is used for the service, rail yard, and commercial purposes. The Alaska Railroad currently employs more than 600 Alaskan, majority of the railroad workers. In 2003, Onboard Service magazine named Alaska Railroad as one of the best railroads in America. Going back to the history of Alaska Railroad, it started a very small stretch of a line from the southern part, which was a never frozen port of Seward. And then the company which started Alaska Central Railway got bankrupt, and then the company acquired it, named Alaska Northern Railway, and eventually that also went bankrupt. Then the government entered into the railroad creation, and in 1914, President Woodrow created the Alaska Engineering Commission, and they did the survey where to start the line, and this is one of the sites from where the Alaska Railroad started. And these were the camps which were started to start the production of the rail line. And in the next year, they completed the survey, and approximately 500 miles of road from Seward to Fairbanks was selected. And after almost a decade, the President Warren drove the Golden Spike in Nenana. Nenana at that point of time was one of the major cities of Alaska. And now there are more cities which has come up, like Seward, Anchorage, which became the capital, and the Fairbanks. The history of Alaska Railroad has suffered several incidents. Initially, it struggled to generate the revenue, and then the World War happened. Then it has to go through the supply of the goods and the military to the federal government, and then again it went through almost bankruptcy, and the government has to pitch in again. So it has to go through several rounds of renovation in the last 100 years. In 1984, the Alaska government pitched for purchasing the Alaska Railroad from the federal government. It was already in the hands of the federal government. And in 1984, they proposed to sign legislation to establish Alaska Railroad Corporation. In January 1985, the state of Alaska purchased this railroad from the federal government for $22.3 million US. And later on, several $100 have been pitched in from the government to renovate and restore the functioning of the Alaska Railroad. After the formation of our Alaska Railroad Corporation, the ARRC, ARRC has innovated several equipment, including the locomotives and the cars and the bridges in the railroad. I would like to briefly talk about the bridges of ARRC because it's very interesting. So when they started making the wooden bridges in 1917, these were one of the first bridges which were built by the Alaska Railroad, early railroads which went bankrupt, inspired by the Baltimore and Ohio railroads, which utilizes already, they were expert in making different kind of bridges, especially the timber ones, and they incorporated the similar strategy to build and to cover the cavities during the construction. And other than the timber bridges, Alaska Railroad utilizes several types of bridge, including the steel one, and then the steel and timber mix, and recently the concrete, steel, and the timber mix. Recently, in last 10 years, they have renovated and replaced most of the existing timber bridges because they have already surpassed their age. And now those bridges have gone into, either they have been preserved or they have gone into historic landmark of Alaska. And currently, Alaska Railroad has as many as 800 bridges, and some of them are still based on the timber. In the mid-1950s, approximately 800 miles of timber trestle bridges were in service in the National Railroads of America. I would like to show you some of the engineering of the timber bridges, especially these ones. They were kind of a loop, a layered structure of the bridges. So if the train enters here, it comes back after taking a loop and crosses from here. So if you see the aerial view of these bridges, they look more like of a donut. The train going from one way and then taking a loop and then coming back over to complete a circle. So not all the bridges were simple. Some of the bridges were also complicated, like this one. They had a height and they expanded several layers of engineering. The second thing I would like to talk about the locomotives. I know members of this RES society, they are very enthusiastic about locomotives, and I could not ignore. I would have ignored this thing had it been some other place, but for this, especially the members of this society who are passionate about locomotives, I had to include locomotives of Alaska Railroad. The many initial engines were transformed from Panama, including 18 locomotives, which were supplied, which were actually narrow gauge railroad locomotives, but later they were transformed into standard gauge locomotives. They, from construction to driving trains, they did fantabulous jobs for several decades, and eventually they had to retire in 1966. Then a new fleet of locomotives arrived, and they are the one who have been pulling the trains, passenger as well as the freight trains for the last 6 decades. So currently, Alaska Railroad owns 28 SD-70 MAC locomotives, where SD stands for special duty and M stand for modified, and they represent a majority of the 51 unit locomotive fleets in the Alaska Railroad. And they started purchasing in several installment, and there are a variety of numbered locomotives in the Alaska Railroad, especially if I talk about the numbers here, 4318 or 3010. The number 3000, for example, or 4000 represents the horsepower. So if you see the number 2038, for example, it represents a 2000 horsepower. Similarly, 3010 is 3000 horsepower, and 4318 is 4000 horsepower. Especially going for a different series of number. I don't have the picture right now with me, but if we go, for example, 4001, they have a different series of tag on the nose of those locomotives. For example, 4001 has a name, Star of Denali, Star of Anchorage, Star of, or something like this. So they have given a special series for these locomotives starting from 4000 in number. And currently, they have purchased a hybrid dual mode SD-70 MAC from General Electric. Then coming to the passenger railroad, initially started as a passenger railroad, and then in between the World War happened, and they have to carry troops and military freight for several years. And eventually, after everything was settled, then they launched their signature carriages for passenger and called the Aurora. And a special blue and gold streamliner was introduced, and they have maintained the same color scheme till date. I'll show you in the next slides how the current fleet of passenger cars look like, and they have retained the gold and the blue color on all of their passenger carriages. So the current fleet include one of the signature and the most expensive rail car, which they call GoldStar, and they feel proud to market it as a luxury double-decker car. They resemble very similar to Amtrak, and I have to talk about Amtrak here because when I saw for the first time at Anchorage station, it felt like I am seeing a superliner double-decker fleet of Amtrak. So I'll briefly talk about how tall they are. So if you compare the single level passenger car, which we call M fleet, or earlier used to be Metrolink, they are 12 feet 8 inches. And the double-decker superliners, which Amtrak uses west of Mississippi for all the journeys, especially starting from Chicago and Los Angeles and San Francisco, they are superliners, and they are 16 feet 2 inch. Whereas the fleet which is used east of Mississippi River, especially from New York City to Canada and New York City to Miami, they are called viewliner. They have double line of windows, but they are not bi-level, they are single level, and they are 14 feet. And our Indian trains, the LHB coach of Rajdhani especially, they are somewhere in between 13 inch, in between this viewliner and M fleet. So this gives you an idea how tall these double-decker GoldStar dome cars are. And I'll show you more pictures and videos in the slides. Next slide. So talking about the passenger route which Alaska Railroad operates currently, it goes all the way where it started Seward, and it operates till Anchorage, and then which is the base and headquarter of the Alaska Railroad. They shifted from Seward to Anchorage and constructed a new building, new headquarters for railroad operations. And then the second one, which goes from Anchorage to Fairbanks, and this is known for is Denali National Park, and as well as the Northern Lights, depending on the season we are traveling with Alaska Railroad. So Alaska Railroad operates a variety of trains, especially from southern, like going from the center to southern and going from center to north, depending on where you would like to take the train. There are coastal train, Denali Star train, especially for the national park, and the Glacier Discovery, where it takes passengers to the glaciers and a variety of other trains, including the winter northern light special train. And I'll talk about the journey which I took 5 years back. But before going for the passenger journey, I would like to briefly talk about that Alaska Railroad is not only a passenger railroad, it's one of the railroad which operates both passenger and freight. And especially in Alaska, it plays a pivotal role for its combination of transporting freight from one corner of the state to the other corner. It cooperates with several private operators and manages to carry 5.1 million tons of freight annually using 1,381 cars and 57 locomotives, which is very impressive for a single state-owned railroad. So I'll talk about my journey, which I took 5 years back. And the journey was more special because in a few days after this trip, I was going to leave USA for good. By the time I had decided that I will return to India, I have secured a job in India and in Europe, Oslo, and I have to make a difficult call sitting in New York where I would join, whether I will go to Europe or I'll come back to India. And this is post-COVID time. And I thought before saying goodbye to USA, I'll make a journey, one last trip with Amtrak and Alaska Railroad. So I started my trip from New York City and went to Seattle. And I wanted to take the Coast Starlight, one of the most scenic train journey of Amtrak in the USA. And unfortunately, I could not board the train. I missed the train, though it was at 10 a.m. For some reasons, I missed the train. And this is me sitting at the beautiful interior of this King Street Amtrak station and regretting that I missed the train just by a few seconds. I saw the train in front of me and I could not go there and board the train. Anyways, I got 2 additional days which were not planned, and I think whatever happened for good. And then I stayed in Seattle, which was not in my plan, and I got to see the Seattle monorail, which is one of the oldest operating monorail in the world. So other than the monorail which run in Disneyland, which is considered private, not actually for public usage, Seattle monorail is totally public usage monorail. And then the second day I went to Mount Rainier, did a little bit of hike, and then returned to Seattle to start my journey to Alaska Railroad. So this annexure to my journey, I will always remember that if you miss something, is something else written there. And then 2 days later, I arrived in midnight in Anchorage, and the first thing the next morning I did to visit the visitor center. One other thing which I always do is to visit museums in any city I visit, and the reason to visit Anchorage Museum was because Alaska Railroad has transferred all the rights for its usage, or all the pictures and the videos and the history, all archives to Anchorage Museum. Alaska Railroad does not maintain any museum on its own, and everything related to Alaska Railroad has been transferred to Anchorage Museum. So it was very essential for me to know the history and the old pictures and about how Anchorage and the Seward developed along the coast, and how the railroad helped in developing the major cities of Alaska today. I visited the museum. And then this picture is right at standing at the Anchorage depot. And why I showed this picture, because if you ask someone to guess the time of this picture when the picture was taken, anyone would say it's afternoon or in the evening. This was around 10 p.m. So there was no sunset, there was no dark, pitch dark, and people use dark blind curtains to get asleep. And I struggled to get asleep because there was sunlight. And every time I would flip the curtains to see how much sunlight has been retained in the sky, and every time the sun and the sky looks like this. So this is in the night, which appears day or afternoon. I wanted to see how the station, because the next day the train was at early morning, and being not a morning person, I had to struggle to catch any train. I had already missed the train and I didn't want to miss another train, so I went a day before to inspect the station and if anything has to be taken from there and any information. So there was a information board there which displays the number of trains which operate from the Anchorage depot, which I have already talked on previous slide, and they have 3 different trains going in 2 different direction from the depot. And they have displayed one of the first railroad locomotives at the entrance of the station. This is, I specifically have noted that time, 10:36. I finally, frustrated with not having any sunset, I wanted to have a picture of the sunset in the background, and finding no sunset in the city. At 10:36, I finally called it off and then returned to my hotel. And I thought, okay, this is not going to be a pitch dark anytime here. So next day when I started my trip, I was super excited in the morning. The train leaves 6:45 a.m. and I got my boarding pass and then submitted my luggage there. People started going there. And the first look of the train, this is how the train looked like. And when you enter the coach, which is the GoldStar, is you see the discrimination as you see in other Amtrak sleeper passenger cars, that the coach car or the seating passengers are not allowed to enter. And the same thing was nominated here, that the private car and only for this class of passengers. This the structure and the interior of the gold car looks very similar to the superliner car, with the stairs and the observation car and the seating area on the second level. A small section of this car has been kept as open dock, where you can go and then stand there without any hindrance from the glass. So if you want to take a picture, if you want to stand there, feel the fresh air, you can just go and stand there. Though it was very cold, I'm okay with winter. I just went there to stand. Perhaps I was the only one who was standing there in this winter. And this is how the movement of the train looked like when the train started moving from the station. I will skip some of these videos and then I'll try to keep it short, because there are so many videos here, and I'll try to wrap up my presentation on time. So the lower level of the bi-level car is reserved for dining. So they give you a ticket and they ask you the time, as they ask in Amtrak. A specific time where you can go and place yourself on a particular seat number which is assigned to you. And these are some of the views, some of the most magnificent views I have my food while traveling in a train. It's still unbelievable. Still, I plan to go again, and hopefully this year I'll be able to travel some of the part which I could not cover in the previous journey. So as the train moves for the next 1 hour, and it enters the southern territory of Alaska, where the glacier and the lakes and the beautiful colors of the lakes appear suddenly, and then you feel it indeed is one of the most scenic railroad, undoubtedly. So I hope I'll try to convince by these videos that why it's one of the most scenic railroads. So with this journey, with this kind of, there are so many videos and so many pictures which I could obviously cannot accommodate here. It was just a representative video how the journey looked like for the next 1 hour, gliding through the glaciers. There are lakes, no, like for miles and miles, and there are glacier, and you can see the melting ice floating along with the water. And sometimes there are two bridges where the snow and the ice just flows down all the way beneath the bridge. And after almost 3 hours journey, the train arrives at the Seward depot, which is by the, if in the map, if you see, is a known freezing harbor. And one of the significant feature of this depot is that it connects with the port, which is not freezing throughout the year. And that's why the location was chosen for this railroad as a starting point. So I have focused on this map where the star here is the depot, and you can see here the location of the depot, and this is how the train arrives at the location. After this, when you see the other end, and for maybe 2 miles, and then you have the Bay Area. So the area which is there for living, for the shops and for hotels and for residential is very small section of the land surrounded by mountains and the water. And coming to the city where I lived for 2 days, and the owner, I stayed in one of the heritage hotels there called Seward Hotel, and the owner of the hotel came to receive me very surprisingly, and then he explained the history of his hometown. He was very proud owner, and he knew obviously since childhood he has spent his entire life there. He was very proud about his city, and then he explained everything and the place. He recommended me the place for coffee and for lunch and what all I need to see in the next 2 days. I'm very thankful to him that he was there to receive me from the station. This is the point 0 mile, as we have a similar mile point in Miami. Where the 0 miles start, and similarly there is a 0 mile post in Seward as well. This is one of the bars which very famous there, and they have the currency from all over the world. So the customers who come there and they put their name and the currency. I thankfully had a rupee note, and then I stick it somewhere. I didn't take a picture of that, but I left a note with my name and the country over there. And this is the area where he told me to go in the morning, and the next morning I went there to see the Bay Area.
As they came into the ship.
And one of the few things he recommended, and I have read before traveling to Alaska, and they have a wonderful sea life center where some of the organisms, some of the creatures, some of the sea animals I have never seen before, and it was an opportunity for me to see them for the first time, like seabirds, for example. They have maintained their space in open air as they don't feel that they have been caged. So the facility is massive. It's along the bay, and everything has been in the open space for this living, for creating. And then from there, from the city, there are many ships, many kind of activities you can book, which goes for the glacier trip. They take you inside inside the Bay Area to witness a glacier or melting glacier live, and the journey starts from one of these harbor points. So next day, when after visiting these places recommended by him, and then whatever I have to cover, the next day morning I had my ferry to go to one of the glacier, and then there were no Uber or any other private taxi operator, and I'm very thankful again to the owner. He's the owner of the hotel, and then he asked one of his staff member to drop me to the point where the ferry starts. And then I forgot my wallet. Something or the other has to happen in my trip, and I was not surprised. They laugh when she dropped me off, and then I called her that I forgot my wallet. Then he came once again to give me my wallet, and then he laughed that don't forget anything else and come back to the hotel to pick your luggage. You have a train tomorrow. And the journey started from there for another wonderful glacier journey. So this is one of the national park in Alaska, and I'll show you some of the videos how it looked like, how unreal it looked like. These are the when the ship approached almost the point of the glacier, and there were announcement. They were doing live commentary about the place, about the bay, and the kind of wildlife conservation they have been doing for many years. And one of the commentator, while he was narrating the history of this bay area, he told that you might be lucky that a chunk of the glacier would fall, and it will sometimes comes to the ferries and the ships. And while I was listening to and while I was watching to the glacier, which was right in front of me, a portion of the giant glacier broke from there, and there were several hundred pieces float in the air, very dramatic, very similar to a movie, some sci-fi movie. And this is one of the small piece similar to this piece. Many other chunk of glacier piece came to the ship, and then they were all over. And everyone was stunned. They haven't seen, most of us, most of the people, they have, including me, we haven't seen anything like this before, and the glacier breaking into pieces. So this was one of the highlight of the trip. Then I returned to the station the next day. I returned to my hotel, and then the journey has to start again to Anchorage. This is the Anchorage, the Seward depot, and a very small station with the waiting room and then some basic amenities. And then while returning, there's a special area, stretch of the railroad where the railroad staff announce for you to go and be standing or just view outside on your left and right. They keep announcing the bridge and the tunnel and the glacier, the name of the lake, the Spencer Lake, for example, and this, especially this Moose Pass. So this was one of the highlight of the return journey from the depot to Anchorage. And every time I used to just come out in the open area, though it was freezing temperature, and people were recording or taking pictures from the glass inside the glass and car. I was the one who was standing every time, and then when I asked for a picture from one of the staff, and then she refused. She was like, "This is very cold for me. Though I travel every day, I do my service here every day. I don't know how we are able to manage standing in the open here in this freezing temperature." But thankfully I did, and otherwise that's why the videos have so much of noise in the background, because I was just standing in the open, a small section of the car which has been left open for the passengers. And the service provides you a free complimentary meal and also the drinks on board, and this is like live drinks they prepare for you because they think you're eating your ticket, and the food is always available. Back to Anchorage, and this again a view of the city, or including the station from my hotel room. And again, I have mentioned the time here because there was no sunset, 10:55 p.m. I was hoping that on return at least something would change. There will be some darkness in the sky. Unfortunately, it feels like it's 5 p.m. There. This is 11:48 p.m. there, and I found two Indian students working there, and then we took a walk to their place, and then this was almost midnight there, but there was no complete darkness in the sky. So the next day, I have one more day for myself to explore the Anchorage, because while arriving, I did not get a chance to explore the city completely. And there's another museum other than the Alaska Anchorage Museum. There's one more museum where there's a detailed history of all the cities, and especially the Anchorage city. And in addition to this museum and small historic places, There's one particular trolley car which is very popular and it's sold out immediately if you don't book in advance. So this is one of the trolley car. Despite COVID waves are still surging, you can see how many tourists are waiting in the queue. And another interesting fact that Alaska, especially the Anchorage, has world's largest seaplane base. Is the Lake Hood seaplane base in Anchorage operates almost 200 daily flights, and they have almost 750 residential planes. So the locals use their seaplanes, and again, one of the new things which I haven't seen before, the taking off of a seaplane. I'll show you. So while going to this one of the state park which I visited, and from there is like a top view of the city from where you can see it's like a flat space on a particular height from where you can see the entire city. And while going, I noticed that there's a seaplane base here, and I was fortunate that while returning, I could see a seaplane moving on the water body. And that's something. And then when I read about it, and then I discovered in about it that it's not one of the, it's the world's largest seaplane base. Right. And after this, completing my journey from Anchorage, when I was going to the airport, and I was talking to the cab driver who was local lady, and she told that it's very common for us to encounter moose, and by then I hadn't seen the moose roaming there. And just when she was explaining about how she encounters in her backyard or sometime going to work or somewhere else with her kids, and right there a family of moose were crossing the road. And it's so common for Alaskan. They like they're so much used to this one, they don't care. They for them it's like another, maybe the human being and just crossing the road. That this sight was beholding for me, seeing. And they're massive. Though they look small maybe in this picture, but when you see them in real in front of your eyes, they are huge. And this one of the memory which I always retain from Alaska. And when I took flight from Alaska, this again, the views were mesmerizing. These were the mountains which I have seen while taking the train journey or going south. And how, because obviously is beyond my sight, and while traveling in the train, on the plane, how they look like is, and the spectral view. So from this the fantastic journey, and after traveling few days in glacier and cold, I returned to the heat of New York City, unfortunately. And this is one of the monorail which I saw at the Newark Liberty International Airport, one of the few monorails in the country which has been operational for many years and is still working. And this is another mode of transport which I used to take from my place to go to the research lab. This is one of the sky tramway which crosses this river, and it has been functional for many decades. So this is the East River in New York City, and this is my workplace, Cornell Medical College. This is where I used to live, and then I came back to the city. And the difference you can feel, like how from wilderness, from the wildlife on the street, and coming to concrete jungle where there's only skyscrapers and subway, the metro. So I would like to thank everyone and for listening to me and giving me this opportunity to speak. And I would like to thank especially these two human beings, my parents, who have been always my supporter, and they have traveled with me every single time. Especially, I have talked about this earlier, especially in the month of August, and we used to travel every single year, starting from Jammu Kashmir to Bangalore, and then from Maharashtra to Kolkata. So they are the one who has made me what I'm today. And being a rail fan, I think they were the original rail fans, and I hope I'll be able to do justice to their rail fan. Thank you very much. If
Thank
anyone
you.
has a question,
Thank you
please.
very much. Thank you very much, Pankaj. You have taken us all to Alaska without our leaving our homes. It has been a pleasure to learn so
Thank you.
much about a place which very few of us have had the opportunity of visiting. I would. There are only two comments, one question and one
Okay.
comment in the chat box. So if anyone else would like to react,
This meeting is being recorded.
if anyone else would like to react or ask a question, please do so in the chat box. In the meantime, I would like to share one comment and one question. The comment is about
Okay.
the locos which you mentioned. It is SD70 Mac, presumably from
Right.
EMD. The locos which
Yes,
we
it
got
is
from
from
EMD
EMD.
in our
Yes.
transfer of technology project
Yes.
is the broad gauge version of SD70
Yes.
Mac, that is the GT46 Mac. And
Yes.
now it is known as WDG4. The other thing is the question which I wanted to ask was that how long was the train journey from Anchorage to Seward?
It's approximately 3 hours. The train started
Right.
at 6:45 a.m. and it arrives in Seward at around 11:15, something like 11:30.
Okay. Thank you. Then coming to the question raised by Mr. Jail Singh, he asks, were there any snow plows there?
Sorry, snow?
Snow plows to clear the snow. Probably it was not snowing when you were traveling there, but were the locos
No, it
equipped
was
with
not
any
active snowing there, but other snow was all around, but not on the track, so it was not
right? So, but
required.
if snow falls on the track, there must be some kind
Yeah.
of device on the
Yes,
locomotive which can clear that.
the cleaners at the base of the locomotives. I have seen the same thing in Amtrak locomotives. They put a flat iron plate in the front of the locomotives, which keep cleaning the snow from the tracks.
Okay. Thank you. Then there's one participant whose name is not mentioned. Only his initials
Okay.
HK are mentioned, and he says very interesting, informative.
Thank you very
Then
much.
Apoov Bahadur wants to know what is the speed of these trains and is it a single line throughout?
It's a single line, and the speed varies because generally when it goes through this glacier part, the last 1 hour, the speed is like 70 miles per hour somewhere, and it varies when it going through plains, especially starting from Anchorage. The speed is high. When it enters the glacier in the lake area in the Moose Park, where I have shown all those videos, the speed decreases because there are sharp turns there, and the train tries to move slowly. And then again, when it start getting into Seward, then the speed increases. So it variable. It's not fixed speed throughout the route.
Right. Then we have some more questions. Mr. Ramaswamy says, how many double-decker coaches are there in this train?
So in one train there are two, and the gold class, and there are other seating class, and then there's something similar like our Vista Dome, which is not the dome car, but it's a single level observation car, which is different from the Gold Star. And total they have six. So initially they purchased two, and then two, and then two. They deploy these six dome cars, double-decker dome cars, in three different trains. So each train carries two double-decker cars.
Right. Then we have one more question. Did you face any unusual difficulty during your journey which you have not faced before? I mean, apart from forgetting your wallet and getting it back, did you have
No,
any
the
difficulties
people
which
were
are specific to that
people were
location?
it was unusual to plan because whoever I asked, no one has been there. People who have been living there forever, my friends, colleagues, I asked every single person, has anyone been there, and everyone said no. And then I had to plan everything on my own based on the information, writing emails to Alaska Railroad, and then going through the internet, the website. The information available on the website is extensive. They have every single thing from the history to the how to make booking, and everything is very smooth. So you don't have to face any difficulty. And I plan everything on my own. So I did everything, and instead of facing difficulty, I find it very uh, welcoming there. Every single person I met, very helpful, humble, and somehow this kind of experience I did not see in the main. I mean, this is also mainland, but in the East Coast, especially, which is considered very rude, especially New York City. So going from there, it was a different experience.
Okay, so we have some more questions coming up, and we have another 5 minutes. So,
Okay.
Mr. Nikhilesh Jain wants a rough idea of the cost of the ticket.
Okay. I have wait. I have a slide where I have shown my ticket. This is the one. Is my screen still visible?
Yes.
Oh, so this is the ticket. This is the amount I paid, $371 for this one side journey. It
The
depends
round trip?
again because they are different because they are different coaches, and it starts from $100 I think, and it goes up to three. This is the highest one, $371, and this
Is
was
that,
5
is
years
that
back.
for the round trip? Sorry to interrupt. Is it for the round trip?
No,
Both ways?
this is one side. No, one
One
side.
way. One side.
One
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Pankaj. And two more questions. Is there any wheel slip and wheel skidding? Mr. Jayant wants to know.
Wheel skidding. So I was reading about the locomotives. They used to have initially. This is about the train slipping, right, from the track.
Yes.
Yeah, so it doesn't happen. So I was reading. This is very interesting. They have information about the locomotives in detail, and I did not include in this presentation to keep it on time. But I read. In fact, today I was reading about this thing that they change their locomotives from 4 axle to 6 axle truck, and they
Yes.
have this technology called STCR. You would be knowing better. STCR
Yes.
radial or steerable trucks, which
Yes.
yeah, so, which are computer controlled, and they reduces the bite, which they call inverted commas bites, on the inside
Yes.
of the rail that lead to increased friction, drag, and wear.
Right.
This is the description
So
on the Alaska rail.
you are absolutely right. When the moment you go for SD70 Mac locomotives, you are
Yes.
much better equipped to deal with wheel slip. Then, very quick question from Mr. Priyadarshi: does the train service continue in winter also?
Yes, the days change, the operation changes, especially from March to September, and then from October to February, the timing goes in winter, especially one weekly, and then it's daily in summer. And I'll show you the slide here where they have mentioned the number of days. So if you see here, this train, especially going north, it departs 5 days from the Anchorage, which is the center, and the other trains departs every day going south from the center. And this change especially in summer and winter, the timing and the operation days.
Then we have another question from Mr. Nikhilesh Jain: is Canadian visa required if you have US visa?
Yes, depend again, like if you're working what category of visa, like if you're working on H1 and J1 or F1, you require a Canadian visa.
Yes, my knowledge is also that Canadian visa is separate from US visa.
It's very separate from that.
Mr. Apur Bahadur has asked a question. I think that's the last question we'll take today. Is this only a tourist railway, or do ordinary citizens also use this service?
No, it's a very ordinary, because that's why I mentioned this one is one of the it's one of the few trains in the world which offer whistle stop. So passengers can like a taxi wave their hand, and that's why it's called whistle stop. They can wave their hand, the train stops for them at certain point. So other than the major, there's no station in between. The train stops only when the passenger requires, and this is only for the locals, and they get down in some remote areas where there are no roads or there's no connectivity from the highways. This is designed for them. So it was basically a passenger train for the locals, and later the additional tourist cars were added to it.
Right. I thought we'll wrap up, but we have got just one more question.
No, I don't think we have time for another question.
Just the last one, sir.
Okay.
Are there any banker locos? It depends on whether it's a steep gradient.
Yes, they are. So it depends. Sometimes I have, like, for the freight trains is different, and for passenger trains, they put at the rear end and in the center. And again, it goes to ST70 Mac. They purchase a variety of locomotives to use in the dual mode, and there was something else. I'll tell you this thing.
Thank you. Thank you, Pankaj. You have answered the question.
Yeah, that's
We've had a very interesting
400,
interaction.
4,000 horsepower. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pankaj. Thank you for your
Thank you very
presentation and thank you for patiently answering all the questions. Now
Thank you
we'll hand over to the next. Mr.
Thank
Manoj
you,
Pandey,
Pankaj.
please.